Welcome back to CIA Declassified. Today we explore the most terrifying frontier the agency ever crossed, the human soul. In the early 1950s, the CIA became obsessed with the mechanics of guilt. They didn't just want to control your body, they wanted to turn off your compass. They looked for a way to strip a man of his humanity for just long enough to commit the unthinkable. This was the dark pursuit of Project JUTE. JUTE was a search for the chemical off switch for the human conscience. Project JUTE was a sub-project of the technical services staff focused on biological and chemical control, specifically investigating compounds that could induce temporary moral insanity. A quote from a declassified 1952 research proposal. The aim is to identify a pharmaceutical agent capable of neutralizing the inhibitory mechanisms of the superego without impairing cognitive function, end quote. The agency worked with various derivatives of mescaline and early synthetic opioids, testing their effects on judgment-based decision-making in high-stress environments. Project JUTE researchers utilized a conscience scale, an early psychological testing metric designed to measure a subject's willingness to perform unethical acts under the influence. Testing took place at clinical facilities in Edgewood, Arsenal, Maryland, where military volunteers were unknowingly administered experimental behavioral modifiers. A quote from a declassified technical memo. Under the influence of compound J12, the subject exhibited a complete disregard for established social taboos and a marked absence of empathetic response, end quote. The CIA investigated aerosolized delivery, hoping to spray a crowd and induce a state of mass sociopathy to incite riots or total civil collapse. Project JUTE overlapped with the work of Dr. Sidney Gottlieb, the black sorcerer of the agency, who sought the truth serum's evil twin, the lie serum. The agency explored the ethics exposure, debating whether an agent could be held legally responsible for crimes committed while under the influence of JUTE. A quote from a declassified Office of Security briefing. The strategic advantage lies in the creation of an operative who can navigate the moral abyss with the cold efficiency of a machine, end quote. Scientists discovered that many JUTE compounds caused permanent ego dissolution in subjects, leading to chronic psychiatric institutionalization. The project tested trigger chemicals where the moral insanity would remain dormant until the subject smelled a specific perfume or ate a certain food. Research documents from 2026 show the agency tried to inverse train subjects, making them feel intense physical pain whenever they felt a sense of guilt or compassion. JUTE explored the use of belladonna alkaloids to cause a state of waking delirium where the subject could no longer tell the difference between a dream and a murder. A quote from a 1955 progress report summary. The 4 to 6 hour window of moral suspension is sufficient for most field applications requiring tactical lethality. The project investigated post-action amnesia drugs intended to be given alongside JUTE so the agent would wake up with no memory of their horrific deeds. The 2026 declassified data suggests that JUTE was tested on foreign dignitaries during a 1954 summit to see if they would betray their own country's interest without remorse. Agency safe houses in Panama were used for long-term observation of JUTE subjects to see if the moral void would eventually lead to total neurological collapse. Project JUTE ultimately led to the development of several non-lethal crowd control agents that are still classified as riot control agents today. A quote from a former CIA chemist, Dr. Frank Olson. "We are tinkering with the very glue that holds a civilization together, and we are surprised when it starts to crumble." End quote. The search for these compounds led the agency to fund extensive research into synthetic derivatives of atropine, looking for a specific dosage that caused disorientation without physical incapacitation. Records show that JUTE scientists monitored the psychological profiles of career criminals to see if their brain chemistry could be replicated in normal operatives through chemical intervention. A quote from a 1953 memorandum from the Technical Services Division: "By suppressing the frontal lobe's inhibitory function, we can facilitate actions previously deemed incompatible with the subject's baseline character." End quote. The project specifically explored dissociative fugue states where a person can function at a high level while being completely mentally separated from the gravity of their environment. Declassified 2026 expense reports indicate a significant purchase of research-grade lysergic acid for use in determining if hallucinogens could be stabilized for tactical moral suspension. While the chemical names are now public, the Subject 9 outcome files from 2026 are covered in thick black ink. What happens to a human being when their consciousness is surgically removed and then put back? Get ready for the theory of the sociopath serum. Speculation suggests that Project JUTE succeeded and is currently being added to the water supply of major political capitals to ensure optimal decision-making without the burden of a conscience. What if the drug was for the good guys? A dark rumor suggests the CIA gave JUTE to its own assassins to ensure they could pull the trigger without hesitation, and the black redactions hide the remorse reports of men who woke up and realized they had killed their own families. Could JUTE be contagious? Speculation suggests the redactions hide evidence of a behavioral virus where someone under the influence of the drug can infect others through conversation, turning a whole city into a moral wasteland. Watch out for the endless evil theory. It claims the redactions hide a JUTE variant that feels so good, a high so pure, that subjects will commit any atrocity just to get another dose, creating a slave army of the sinister. What if the CIA created a new species? Speculation posits the redactions hide Project Cain, where JUTE was used to permanently alter the DNA of infants to create a generation of humans born without the capacity for empathy. Could the drug be calling something from the dark? A wild rumor suggests the redactions hide the possession protocol, where JUTE was actually used to hollow out a human soul to let something else step into the body. Brace for the global cooling theory. It claims the agency is using JUTE to lower the emotional temperature of the world, and the redactions hide the date when humanity will lose the ability to love entirely. Some believe the redactions hide the zero signal. Speculation suggests the CIA found a frequency that, when combined with JUTE, makes people believe that nothing, literally nothing, matters, leading to mass voluntary disappearances. Beware the executive order rumor. It claims the redactions hide a list of Fortune 500 CEOs who are JUTE positive, taking the serum daily to maintain their competitive edge in the market. Some speculate the black bars hide the Armageddon anchor. The theory is that if the agency ever loses control, they will release JUTE globally to ensure that humanity destroys itself before anyone else can take over. Listen to the apathy pulse rumor. It suggests the redactions cover an experiment where the agency tested JUTE in busy train stations to see if they could make an entire crowd of people walk past a person in distress without stopping, proving the drug can kill the Good Samaritan instinct instantly. Could the drug leave a permanent hole? Speculation posits that the redactions hide the echo sin phenomenon, where subjects who were once on JUTE continue to commit crimes because they can no longer feel the pain of a bad conscience even years after the drug has left their system. Get ready for the soldier of fortune theory. It claims the agency's blacked out pages hide the fact that JUTE was sold to private military contractors, and that every major global conflict since 1990 has been fueled by moral-free soldiers who are chemically incapable of feeling fear or pity. What if JUTE went digital? Some theorists believe the redactions hide Project Silicon Soul, an attempt to code the effects of JUTE into social media algorithms to make people more aggressive and less empathetic toward their neighbors through screen exposure alone. Lastly, brace yourself for the reverse JUTE rumor. It suggests the CIA actually found a drug that makes people too good, too honest, and too kind, and they redacted the formula because a world of truly moral people would be impossible for an intelligence agency to control. Was Project JUTE a success? Chemically, it was a dark triumph. The agency successfully identified several compounds that reliably induce sociopathic behavior in controlled environments. However, operationally, it was a catastrophe. The moral void was too unpredictable. Subjects didn't just kill the target. They often turned on their handlers or engaged in chaotic mission-destroying violence. JUTE proved that when you take the leash off the beast, you can't tell it who to bite. As far as technological and operational breakthroughs go, the wreckage of JUTE provided the building blocks for modern psychological warfare. Mapping the superego, the first scientific mapping of the neurological centers responsible for moral judgment and guilt. Targeted neurochemistry, the development of drugs that only target specific behavioral traits while leaving general intelligence intact. Mass behavioral modulation, early breakthroughs in how to influence the morale of a city or army using chemical vectors, and ethical disassociation, understanding how to separate an operative's personal identity from their mission-required actions. Project JUTE shows us that the agency was willing to kill the soul to save the state. The next time you see a person act with a cold, terrifying lack of humanity, don't just blame the person. Ask yourself if they've had a taste of the Judas drop. Thanks for listening. Join us next time when we examine Project Nomad. The agency wanted to know if the walls had ears and if the plants had eyes. We'll uncover the study of vegetative intelligence. We'll look at how the CIA tested whether a plant's electrical stress response could detect if an unfriendly person had entered the room. Join us next time for the Silent Sentinel. In the meantime, I'll see you in the archives.